Cameroon has celebrated the nation's 50th anniversary of unity in over 2 years. The last parade was held in 2019. In a rare public appearance, the 89-year-old head of state, Paul Biya, presided over the civil and military parade. This amid persistent rumours that the president is unwell.
The parade on Friday saw officers and schoolgoers marching, holding flags and streamers which read, "Let us all support a strong Cameroon committed to its national unity." Half a century ago, British Southern Cameroons and French Cameroons reunified to form the United Republic of Cameroon. This year's celebrations were held under the theme, Defense and Security Forces at the Service of the People for the Preservation of Social Peace and National Cohesion. Some reports say the National Day has been marked by running battles between government troops and separatists who imposed a lockdown, crippling businesses in English-speaking Western regions. The military says at least 28 separatists who vowed to disrupt celebrations in English-speaking regions of the majority Francophone nation have been killed in violent battles. Despite celebrations at the 20th of May Boulevard in Yaoundé, national unity is becoming fragile. A conflict has plagued Cameroon's northwest and southwest English-speaking regions since 2017. Authorities wage a war to self-proclaimed secessionist groups. Both sides have been accused of atrocities in the fighting, which has killed more than 6,000 people, according to the International Crisis Group.
MacDonald Ayang is politics reporter for state-owned Cameroon Insider Newspaper. He joins us now from the capital, Yaoundé. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us. So, as we mentioned, that since 2019 there hasn't been such celebrations. Tell us about what you saw earlier on.
Thank you very much for having me on the news. In Yaoundé yesterday, it was a new experience for me, given that so many Cameroonians, or all Cameroonians, have not met in a parade to celebrate their National Day since 2019. It's worth recalling that the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, surfaced in Cameroon on March 6, 2020. So for the past 2 years, there have been no parades at all. But yesterday, when President Paul Biya and his wife Chantal Biya came to the May 20 Avenue in Yaoundé, it was all celebration for many to see their president come out to preside over a public ceremony for the first time in a very long time, because given that he is aging, he's 89 actually, and so as time goes on, he is beginning to reduce the way he appears in public. So I would say yesterday was a memorable day for many who once more saw their president and also saw him standing on his feet. Because the civilian component, or rather the military component of the march past, which lasted about 45 minutes, saw him stand throughout, to pay homage to the defense and security forces of the nation, who have also had a very difficult moment in the last couple of years. So, in summary, it was a really, really great day for many Cameroonians, but not without some frustration, which many expressed for various reasons.
So we'll get to the frustration and his health, but the significance of this day. So, I mean, half a century ago, British Southern Cameroons and French Cameroons reunited to form the United Republic of Cameroon. But we know that these celebrations this year take place in a divided Cameroon.
You are right, and that's why I talked about frustration. Just to take you briefly back to history, why Cameroon is celebrating 20th May as the National Day is because in 1972 there was a referendum that was organized by the first president of the country, MacDonald Ayang, to put an end to the then federal system, because until 1972, Cameroon was a federal state with federal country with two states: the state of West Cameroon and the state of East Cameroon, or La République du Cameroun, as it was called at the time. So in 1972, President Ayang thought it was time to put an end to such a system. And one of his reasons was that there was need for the bond of national unity to be enforced, to be reinforced. So he thought that bringing the two Cameroons under a united republic, the bond of national unity will be stronger. But that was probably not to be, because over the years, 50 years down the road, there are so many Cameroonians who think that things are not moving so well in the United Republic of Cameroon. And I'm talking specifically about the Anglophone component, the English-speaking component of the country. And in this case, there are two regions. Cameroon is made up of 10 administrative regions. So there are two regions which are English-speaking regions. And these regions were, they make what was then known as West Cameroon, so which came during the referendum to be part of the other Cameroon. So for all these years, the Anglophones have been complaining about marginalization. It may be perceived, it may be real, but for the most part, they think that the French-dominated regions of the country are not being fair enough to them, and that even the central government in Yaoundé, which is led by President Paul Biya, is not doing enough to develop the English-speaking regions. And that is why in 2016 things came to the worst, and that is why we have the crisis that we have today. It started with lawyers, common law lawyers, and then English-speaking teachers as well. And then a few days or few weeks later on, other Cameroonians joined in to express their frustration, to express their disappointment over what they call the marginalization of the English-speaking component of Cameroon. And that's where we are today. So it's been a very costly conflict since 2016 until now. The militiamen have been killing, they have been kidnapping. The military on their part have been accused of killings and burnings and all of that. So it's a whole cacophony in these two regions. And that's why, and so many people think that it is because of the abrogation of the federal system, that is why there is this problem today. Because in the days of the federal system, the West Cameroon had a lot of riches. They could manage their own resources independently at the level of the state. But now that it is a unity state, everything is managed from Yaoundé, the central capital. So things are really, really difficult. And that is one of the reasons why many Cameroonians are expressing frustration, despite the fact that there were celebrations yesterday. And one quick reason why so many Cameroonians are angry is because of rising inflation in the country. For the past couple of months, it's really been a difficult experience for many Cameroonians. Prices of basic commodities have gone up. Bills, Shylock bills, utility bills are going up, and this is not even with a corresponding increase in salaries and wages. So all of these issues add up to the frustration which a majority of Cameroonians, most of who do not even live on $1 a day, are facing. So these are some of the realities. At the time when Cameroon is celebrating 50 years of a unity state, there are a lot of crevices and cracks which so many people think the Paul Biya-led administration must look into in order to fix things for the country to move ahead.
I mean, there are reports that secessionists have tried to prevent people from taking part in the celebrations. Cabo Daniel, Deputy Defense Chief of the Amazonia Defense Forces, has said that, for instance, fighters were stopped government troops from transporting French speakers to English-speaking Western religions to give the impression that English speakers are happy with the central government in Yaoundé. So, as you mentioned, the hardships are across the board. How true are these reports that secessionists try to sabotage, or government itself is trying to obfuscate what the mood really is in Cameroon?
Yeah, like you say, it's a really pretty difficult situation. And just to say that before the May 20 celebration yesterday, the separatist leaders, some of those who are calling the shots, had decreed what they call a lockdown, a week-long lockdown. So this means that across the two English-speaking regions, the northwest and the southwest regions of the country, there have been no movements, and major roads have been blocked. Travel agencies have been prevented from moving around, and people cannot move freely. And that's why yesterday in many parts of these regions there were no parades. There were parades just in a few cities and towns where the security is more robust. So yeah, the accusations, are there, and it's a two-way thing. While the military is accusing the separatist fighters of atrocities, violence and kidnappings and all of that, the separatist fighters on their part are accusing the government of trying of bad faith and of trying to give the impression that everything is well, whereas all is not well. And accusations of taking, government hiring people to stage parades and all of that during some of these public ceremonies is not new. We have seen that in the past, even during the Women's Day. We've seen that even during the Labor Day, the May Day, and all of that. So I think, in short, it's a scenario of mutual mistrust and distrust. The separatists are accusing government, and the government is accusing the separatists. So that is where we are now. But I think what so many people have been saying, including some people of the international community, is for the government in Yaoundé to make some compromises and see how they can convene genuine dialogue with no holds barred, dialogue that will bring the separatists, the leaders, and whoever is a stakeholder in the crisis to try to put an end to it. Because for as long as these accusations and counter-accusations continue, we can only be sure that the crisis is going to get worse. The crisis is going to get worse and worse.
All right, thank you very much. MacDonald Ayang, political reporter at the state-owned Cameroon Insider Newspaper, is speaking to us from the capital, Yaoundé. Let's get additional perspective now. Yaah Maggie Kilo is a diplomat who hails from the former British Southern Cameroons and recently retired from the African Development Bank. She's also chairperson of the Southern Cameroons Alliance, an organization set up to work towards bringing justice and accountability for victims of the conflict in the Cameroons. She joins us from Houston, Texas, in the United States of America. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Just your perspective of the celebrations itself amid these political divisions.
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, my deepest condolences to the people of KwaZulu-Natal for the recent situation that is affecting everybody out there in South Africa. I would say that the 20th May celebration should really not be taking place. It is not a celebration of unity, but rather it's a celebration of annexation of the Southern Cameroons by Ahidjo's regime and continued by Biya's regime. We should be a people who could be dialoguing with one another, but we have a situation that is very much comparable to the one in Russia and Ukraine at the moment, without, unfortunately for Southern Cameroonians, the heavy attention and voice of countries like the United States. People are suffering in Southern Cameroons where dialogue would have prevailed. Thank you.
So, and I just want to refer back to what MacDonald was just saying earlier on. I would like to talk about the figure of Paul Biya. He was saying the fact that he was seen live and standing, appearing healthy for quite a sustained amount of time, but amid these frustrations of poverty and lack, he himself has been accused of widespread corruption and living a life that is completely contrary to what the people, and I'm talking about the majority of the people in Cameroon, live like. What are your thoughts about this? Just the optics.
Well, a head of state should not be lauded for standing for a certain number of minutes during this kind of a celebration. A head of state actually rules the people, works and is involved in the daily affairs of government. Paul Biya has been missing in action. We saw him during the AFCON Games, where he could barely stand up, and we know that that kind of person at his age, with his abilities, at what we see, he is not in a position to actually govern Cameroon, and especially in a situation where he's actually overstayed as a head of state, and he's actually perpetuated the differences between the Anglophones and the Francophones. If we take a country like Canada that has a similar or inverse situation to the situation in Cameroon, over the years, Canada has actually accepted and worked with and dialogued with the minority French-speaking Quebec region, whereas in Cameroon, you can see what has been happening. The Anglophones have been basically not just even given second-class citizen position. They are treated as non-citizens of the country. On several occasions, you arrive in the country, you speak to a Francophone, whether they are in position of authority or really even just taxi drivers. They'll first address you as Biafra, which means that you're not a citizen of that country. And, you know, they've never really even accepted Anglophones in positions where they can make decisions for themselves. And that is the result of the situation that we are seeing today. Unfortunately, Paul Biya does not have the resources nor the capacity to actually address any problem. I think that the regions, the countries of the regions like Nigeria, the African Union, the regional organizations can come together and try to solve a problem. But we have a puppet who's sitting there. We don't know who's manipulating Paul Biya from behind. And he's in a situation where the problem is just getting worse and worse over the years. It's 6 years now and counting, and you know there is no end to the so-called Anglophone crisis. In my view, and in the view of many other Southern Cameroonians, this relationship is a failed relationship, and we really should just go our separate ways. That way we'll find peace among ourselves and rule ourselves and determine, you know, what the country should look like for our children. This situation is just untenable. It's really not in anyone's favor. Not for the Francophones who are being killed in our regions and who come in and terrorize our people, nor for us who are hardworking people and we really just want to determine our own future and make sure that our children have a place and a space to grow in.
Yaah Maggie Kilo, thank you so much for speaking to us. Diplomat from the British Southern Cameroons. She's also recently retired from the African Development Bank, and she is the chairperson of the Southern Cameroons Alliance, an alliance working towards bringing justice and accountability for victims of the ethnic conflict in Cameroon.